Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, check in to all three channels on a regular basis if you are so inclined.
Yes, please do.
Evolutionary and EEARTS, and also Heart's Home, where we have a couple of our shorts up there to help with instruction. So, what we wanted to share about was some yoga wisdom. Well, we're going to focus in on the first of these three. We see be kind, which is ahimsa. It's actually nonviolence or no harm. Be content, santosha, and be true, satya. Where did you hear satya before? Satya Yuga? Well, that'll be the topic for another video as well, as the age of truth is where we're heading. But right now we've been, delving deep into the Kali Yuga, and we are ready for some fresh air.
Indeed we are.
One of the things that hit me right off the bat when you're looking at the Bible and why was an offering of the fruit of the earth, right, rejected, but a blood offering accepted? Now, the common scriptural thought is, well, because it's presaging, it's foreshadowing the blood sacrifice of Jesus, Yeshua. Yeah, that's what they teach you. But the reality is, this should tell you all you need to know, really, about the controllers of this book, who have twisted and given us doctrines that in many cases don't make sense, in which case you're told, well, it's just one of those mysteries you have to leave up to God. But the reality is, it's not leaving up to God, it's leaving it up to the controllers, who were working out through people like Constantine the Great and King James and all the popes and, again, the monarchies. Cain's offering of fruit rejected. Abel's offering of a blood sacrifice of lamb accepted. Why would the aroma of a sacrifice be important to God? And it gives you the instructions to basically, slaughter animals as a substitute for yourselves, so to speak. Blood sacrifice. This is not what we find in the Sanatana Dharma. In fact, if you look to the Jains, why are they covering their mouths? Do you know why? Because they don't want to harm any insects that might fly into their mouths, and they might accidentally eat them. Okay, well, that certainly is not a person that is going to commit a blood sacrifice by any mean. There's no way they are going to perform a blood sacrifice. And again, as we pointed out, when you do accept the Eucharist, you're taking that wine and that wafer to be the blood and to be the body of Jesus Yeshua. And that's literally cannibalism. That's, again, something that's not good in the eyes of many, many, many other traditions. The vast majority. Ahimsa is from the Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions. And again, Buddhism and Jainism kind of come out of Hinduism. They come out of the Sanatana Dharma. The principle of nonviolence towards all living things. The single most important moral discipline. Yes. The thought manifests as the word manifests as the deed develops into a habit, and habit hardens into character. So watch the thought and its ways with care, and let it spring from love, born out of the concern for all beings. As the shadow follows the body, as we think, so we become. If we ever think that it's okay to have blood sacrifice, then we're really going down a dark path. If we are confessing and saying that we believe in a blood sacrifice, that leads us straight down a really dark path that leads to a lot of negative karma.
Just for a moment, if you could go back to the picture where they had Cain and Abel, and the offerings. I'm sorry. I just want, if anyone is struggling with this, or if you're walking down a path and you are looking for answers, this is a really good place to stop and sit and really think through the reasoning for yourself. I mean, sit with it. There's so many things in the Bible that we just look at and we bypass, and we don't really sit with it. We don't really accept it. We simply excuse it because of our belief system. Even if we don't agree with it, why? I would just invite you to ask yourself, why? Why are you doing that? Everyone has their own individual answer, and if you're okay with that, you're okay with that. But those who are struggling and understand that there's something wrong with the system, and you want to really, truly love with your whole heart, and you don't want the violence, then that can be. Why can't that be? That's something that we can definitely do, but we have to figure out the why for so many things first.
Absolutely. We shared with you that in multiple instances, that when you're talking fifth density, for those that have been around for a very long time with us, when we were connecting to the beings up in Shasta that are fifth density Lemurians, what do they eat? What do they cultivate? Well, really, they don't have to eat anything, but they take what is offered naturally from nature. And they don't take any lives in taking in nourishment. Same thing we got from the kids, the star children in 2055. If you follow the channeled message there, what do they eat? They eat of fruits and nuts and anything that just basically is given naturally. That would include things like squash and tomatoes and cucumbers and watermelons and cantaloupes and anything where the life is not being terminated by eating something that comes from the plant. And they don't eat any animals. That's just what we have in 3D. And also lower 4D in a way. Again, they're living off the vibrations of pain and suffering is what the controllers do. So this really should tell you all you need to know. And, you got to ask yourself, is my belief system based on fear or punishment, or is it based on love and gratitude? Because invariably, when we see people that say things like, oh, well, you should read Deuteronomy or this or that, see what's going to happen to you next. Well, don't say we didn't warn you. Your whole belief system is based on fear, judgment, and punishment. It's based on negativity. Again, it's not really from source. It's not from the creator of this universe. No, this is the controllers. It's so obvious. It's the controllers. Again, why would the aroma of burning flesh be pleasing to the creator of this universe? Well, the answer is it's not the creator of this universe. And that should tell you all you need to know. Again, when we look to the Jains, and, Buddhism and in the Hindu tradition, again, there are different groupings within Hinduism as it is so vast, and even within Buddhism as well. But ahimsa is something that's universal. It's universal. So there's a few articles here talking about ways to practice ahimsa. And again, 15 acts of kindness, absolutely. First off, nonviolence towards yourself. If you are still doing things that are violent towards you, what would that be? Well, again, abusing alcohol, abusing drugs, smoking cigarettes, all these things are harmful. So this would be a good place to start. Give up the habits that are literally violent towards yourself, and that is very challenging. Absolutely, but it can be done.
Mm-hmm. It can, and it's a good way to have a direct conversation with higher self. If you are having addictions and you're struggling with these addictions, I would invite you to really, this is so simple, look in the mirror every morning and say, I love you and I'm getting better every day. I ask that you just try that for a week and see if you want to start doing things a little bit differently in your life. As it is, like Mike said, it's the struggle is real. You guys, even sugar, that's really difficult to just release. But when you love yourself and you're having that conversation with higher self, it's easier to let it go because you start to feel the love from inside.
Absolutely. So making me time it is an act of kindness to yourself. Absolutely. Be accepting and forgiving of yourself. This is another thing. When you always hear people yelling at you, repent, repent. All you're focusing on is everything you're doing wrong in your life. Instead, let that go. Let it go. Just focus on what you're doing right and what you're getting better with. Adopt an affirmation, as I like to call anything I'm saying in English more of a affirmation than a mantra, because to me the mantras are always in Sanskrit, or there are some other languages like the Egyptian that we were just doing with Isis that are very powerful. But an affirmation, just like what Cindy was saying, every day in every way, I'm getting better, stronger, healthier, better version of myself. Something so simple. Just keep repeating it to yourself and make it happen. There are so many ways we can basically practice ahimsa. It's the ethic of nonviolence. To practice ahimsa means not to harm oneself or another physically, verbally, or mentally. In a more positive sense, adhering to ahimsa means loving and respecting all creation. Little things, and there's little things that stick out to me too. As a kid, sometimes I get carried away with like fake sword fights against trees, and then I might feel guilty that I actually hurt a tree because I broke a branch or something. Little things like that. Everything is living. Consciousness is in everything. So random acts of even violence towards trees is still a random act. So in the Indian religions is how it's wording this here, Jainism, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Again, that's a little bit of a distortion, but it's coming from Britannica, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. And again, it's more than just a vow not to kill any animal life, but it definitely includes that. So right away, when you're looking at, the accepted blood sacrifice, that's not ahimsa. That's not no harm or no violence towards other creatures. It tells you right off the bat that this is not the Creator, because the Creator is full of love. Full of love. Well, why do we have death and suffering? Well, because this is a realm that is a free will zone. So, it comes with the good and the bad. And the dark ones take advantage of souls. They really, truly do.
Yeah, that's a truth that we can talk more about that another time, but it's definitely a truth, So even random acts of kindness toward a tree, this can really help you. It can help you feel better inside. One way to get rid of a lot of anxiety, because plants, trees, they are a big part of our world. We don't grow up with the understanding of how important trees really are for us in this existence. But if you are having a really, really bad day, if you're just really down in the dumps, find a nice tree. Find a tree that is speaking to you, and you will feel it. And you put your hands on this tree and you take some deep breaths. And as you blow out all the negativity into that tree, because the tree roots carry it down deep into the earth. And she's the one that recycles it, and it gets used for something good. So just understand the trees are so, so important to our existence. And that's one way they can help you.
In Jainism, ahimsa is the standard by which all actions are judged. Now, who judges? Is there a judging God? No, it's just simply the law of cause and effect, which we know as karma. For a householder, now who's a householder? Almost everybody is basically a householder. Doesn't even mean that you're married with kids per se. It's more that you are not of the priestly monk caste. And again, we don't have castes. At least we're not openly having castes. We certainly do have different classes, but it's saying the average person that is not a monk or a priest or a yogi or a mystic, the average person. So for them, that would require that practice that they not kill any animal life. However, for an ascetic, observing the great vows, Mahavrata, Ahimsa entails the greatest care to prevent the ascetic from knowingly or unknowingly being the cause of injury to any living soul. That means, you're putting your foot down, you see an ant or a spider, you make sure you miss them. It's that simple. A fly's annoying you, you catch the fly and release it outdoors, or you just ignore the fly. It's to that big a extreme, or we might view it as extreme, but this is the respect for life that they have. And again, there are those that don't really understand so much, but just simply have listened to a few Sunday blurbs and don't understand the real big practices of some of the greatest of the world's religious and spiritual thoughts. And again, this is coming out of the people of the Indus Valley area, but in reality, Buddhism is all over Asia, has been, and it almost was totally gone and then came back after being at one point in time the dominant practice in many countries. So again, we can practice this in everyday life. Again, taking care not to knowingly destroy anything that's out there. It could even be just look at the act of violence with what we see in Ohio. That's an act of violence. And even if it's just, we have our opinions. Even if it was gross negligence, that's still, in a way, an act of violence.
Well, somebody allowed for that situation to be set up in such a way. With all the things that happen in our world, there's your part and then there's the other part. So somebody was definitely in charge of the safety, and if there was a remote chance that something like that could have happened, it should have been stopped, and they didn't.
When we look to all the fracking that's going on, and it's knowingly poisoning the water for profits, it's poisoning the water table, it's destroying a lot of natural areas, it's setting up so that when big earthquakes come, they're going to be way more damaging. This is not a path of nonviolence. And again, when profits come first, and that's really what's driving most of the corporate world, it's profits, it's greed. And again, it's not practicing ahimsa. It's not practicing nonviolence, not at all. And yet you will find so many people that think there's nothing wrong with it. And this is, again, where our traditional Western approach to things in the traditional Western system is really totally missing the boat, completely missing the mark. And that's the literal definition of sin, is missing the mark. Well, our society is very sinful in that way because it misses the mark and it doesn't live in a manner that is nonviolent towards our surroundings. And now when we get the controllers all of a sudden, wanting to care about the climate, the insincerity just rolls right through. And we know that's not even remotely part of their real concern. So again, as far as your food goes, again, trying not to take as much life as you could possibly avoid taking. So, if you are vegetarian, again, that's up to the individual and what their body's going through at that time. But yes, the thought is that you do incur less karmic debt with a vegetarian lifestyle and less on a vegan, and certainly less on a fruitarian, which, again, fruitarian wouldn't be just all fruits. It would also be things that, perhaps are offered without the plant dying. So squash would fit in. All forms of squash and things like that. Tomatoes technically are a fruit. Cucumbers, again, it's all about trying to minimize the harm that you're doing in your own life. And always giving thanks, too. So here's a few articles that give us different ideas on how we can incorporate that into our lives. And when you are performing Hatha yoga, again, So much of this practice in the West has been lost. It's really all about putting the mind into the body with the breath. So it's not just about stretching. It's not just about strengthening and toning. Oh, no, 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 no. That's just a benefit on the side. It's truly about releasing everything you need to release. That is the most important part, because again, the emotions, the guilt, the angst, all these different emotions, the anger, they all get stored in the body. And if we can't come to a realization of what caused them, why they were caused the way they were caused, then we won't be able to release them. Then they literally get stored in the body and manifest as disease. Dis-ease turns into disease. So the practice of Hatha yoga is traditionally just one step, and often it's one of the beginning steps as you go deeper into your yoga practice, as there are many different types of yoga. And yoga literally means union with the divine. So these are just some ideas to give you ways to which you can practice ahimsa. And again, there is reference when it says that Yeshua says, you've heard it said, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You should not lust after her. And he said, even if you think about it, it's as if you already did it. Again, it's controlling the mind, reprogramming ourselves, getting rid of the bad habits. And again, that can start with simply getting rid of those sugar addictions, smoke, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, all the above.
Exactly. And it's all about progress, not perfection. And that's something that you want to tell yourself over and over and over as well. This is something that's not easy to practice because, even Mike and I, living in the house, eating as clean as we do, we're still, we have to utilize the earth. And I'm sure not everything is perfectly fine with that, but we do our absolute best when it comes to everything else around us. Everything that we do have control over, we do our absolute best. So keep that in mind. It's progress, not perfection.
Okay, so this is a quote, maybe give us a better concept on things. Already without your knowledge, you are destroying many creatures. You walk, and many ants are dying under your feet. You're not killing anyone, it's just happening. But an intention to destroy something, an intention to do violence, can destroy your very basis, your own very root. Dropping this intention for violence is ahimsa. Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. So if your intent is to go out and do a blood sacrifice, that's not ahimsa. Actually, that's really something that is knowingly destroying you on the inside. So you know that is not a practice given to us by any benevolent being. And again, you'll know them by their fruit. Ahimsa is the highest duty. Even if we cannot practice it in full, we must try to understand its spirit and refrain as far as is humanly possible from violence. It's something that we should be striving for. Look at this little guy. Now, isn't he adorable? And he's trained to come. I don't even know what he is. But whatever he is, he's just dang cute. When you realize that inside him is what we would call a jiva, and it's an individual soul, and it's from the Creator. It's just like us. Yeah, maybe he hasn't had as many lives. Maybe he hasn't progressed upwards into experiencing life as a human. Sure, but he still has feelings. He still has emotions. He still has wants and desires. He wants that nut or whatever it is in there. It's respecting that life and understanding that the Creator desired enough to create this little cutie, that we should not just automatically think of it as inferior in any way, because again, if God is omnipresent, it's got to be in there too. That's just obvious.
Yes, and like Mike said, he has emotions and desires just like we do. You know, he's going to just naturally go after food. He's going to follow his basic instincts. And there is something that does separate us from these little cuties. And really, that's our education / indoctrination. You know, I think that's the only thing that really separates us, because we have different knowings. We have that ability to be taught, but these guys do too. And I swear, you guys, I don't know about your pets, but our pets, they really seem to be becoming more and more and more human. So is that what it's like when everything is going back into oneness? Are all of our pets evolving too? I mean, it's such a great time to be here. Scary sometimes, but a great time.
I think it's easy to see how this little guy could be far closer to the true God, the true creator, and the mother than any of those that are controlling the political situation and all the drama on earth. Absolutely, you know, they might be human, or in some cases truly demonic. Again, demonic is a tendency. And yes, human souls can become what we would view as demonic entities. Because again, the human experience is just that. It's a human experience. It's a temporary one. And again, it's whether we are on the path to go back to union with Source, which is basically the path of love and compassion. That's the way you get back to Source, through love and compassion for others and for all those souls, the jivas that are existing around us.
Indeed.
As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.